Hi my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. For today's makeup look, I'm going to show you how I did this beautiful classic bridal makeup look. Oh my gosh, I love the way how this bridal makeup has turned out. So first thing, I'm going to work on her eyes. For that, I'm using my NYX brow pencil. I'm not quite sure about the shade, but I will put it down below on the description box for you guys to have a look. I always like to cover the sparse areas, and then I like to go in with the spoolie. Next, I'm using my foundation. I've already moisturized her face, so I didn't put any primer or whatsoever. I went straight into the foundation. For that, I'm using my Maybelline Super Stay Foundation in shade 130. Which is a perfect shade. As you can see, like I applied it on the side of her face and it matched her entire skin so beautifully. Now I like to go in with a stippling brush by MAC, and I like to carefully buff all that foundation into the skin. For concealer, I'm using Maybelline Age Rewind Concealer in shade Neutralizer, mixed with a little bit of ivory. As you can see, like the neutralizer has a little bit of that orange tone to it, and then the ivory is more like a little bit pink undertone. So both mixed together, I thought it was a perfect color for her skin. And I'm also using that same shade to color her higher points of her face color. Oh my gosh. I'm using that same foundation to sort of, highlight her face. I'm such a painter, all I can think of is color. Oh my gosh, like seriously. Before I set the under eyes with some loose powder, I always like to go in and blend those lines out because I don't want the eyes to set together with those lines. So make sure you always remove those lines and blend them out before you go in and set them with some translucent powder. For translucent powder, I'm using my Laura Mercier's translucent powder, which is one of my favorite powders. And I always like to use that to set all the highlighted areas of the face. And then I like to dust it away. Now I'm using MAC NC25 Studio Fix powder, and I'm using a sponge to apply that all over her face. Make sure the face is set. Now my sponge is wet though. I like to use this MAC Studio Fix powder like almost like a pancake because it gives a beautiful coverage. At the same time, it locks the foundation down, and this is a beautiful and perfect trick for bridal makeup look, especially for summertime. And it keeps the sweat locked and sweat proof, which is beautiful technique for makeup. I actually learned this from my mom. She's a makeup artist, for those of you who don't know. She always taught me this like trick, and it just works out every time for me. Now for contour, I'm using Fawn and Havana mixed together from Anastasia Beverly Hills Contouring Palette. And I like to draw in around the perimeters of the face. Now for blush, I'm using Milani blush in shade Rose d'Oro. I know you guys must be thinking, oh my god, is this the only blush she owns? No, I own a ton of blushes, but I don't know why, for some reason, I love using Milani's Rose d'Oro because it has a little bit of the shimmer, and as you can see, her cheeks are already like, there's a subtle glow to it, which is beautiful. Now for nose contour, I'm going in with my Hoola bronzer, and I'm not too sure about the shade, but I know I always call it the Hoola bronzer by Benefit Cosmetics, and I like to use the Inglot 5FS brush, which is perfect for nose contouring. When it is about bridal makeup, I don't like to contour the nose like a high fashion shoot, right? I like to keep it a little subtle. Now for the highlighter, I'm using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Gold Glow Kit highlighter, and the two shades that I've used is pretty much a little more pinkier tone, so which is beautiful, especially if you have a fair skin bride. That pink glow looks really stunning. The two shades that I'm using are called Starburst and Crushed Pearl. which has a little bit of pink hue to it, which is beautiful. Now it's time for some eyeshadow, and for that, first thing I'm going to apply some concealer. And for my eyeshadow palette, I'm using Soft Glam Palette. The first color that I'm using is called Orange Soda, and I'm applying that on all over her crease area. And also I'm going to apply that same color underneath her eyes as well. So now I'm going to darken up the outer corners, and for that I'm using a little bit of burnt orange mixed with sienna. And I'm going to be applying the same color on the bottom of her eyes as well. The next color I'm using is more of the sienna, which is more like a deep brown. And I'm just pulling her eyes up a little bit so that way I get to blend it very nicely without any lines around the crease or any, like, you know, sometimes when you have fold around the eyes it's very difficult, but I just want to make sure I don't have any of those. The next color that I'm using on her lid is called Fairy from the same palette. I love how the transition looked. I wanted to keep the eyes really simple and it turned out amazing. Now for the brow bone and the inner corners, I'm using my Mary Lou Illuminizer by the Balm Cosmetics. And for mascara, I'm using Revlon mascara. And I'm just using a mascara brush to apply that on her eyes. Next, I'm using my Benefit Brow Mascara to take away any powder or fallout that has fallen on her brows. For eyeliner, I'm using Inglot 77 Gel Eyeliner, and today's makeup look, the main thing that I wanted to be was the eyeliner to come on focus. So I wanted to make sure that my eyeliner is really winged out, and I don't want anything on the bottom, but as the top liner, I wanted it to be like really dramatic wing eyeliner. But of course, then again, I have this beautiful bride with me, and I want to make sure that the liner that I'm doing is, it complements her shape of the eye, right? So I wanted to make sure it's very thin in towards the inner corners and it's very winged out towards the outer corners, keeping in mind that it has to suit her eye shape, right? So that's what I did, and I'm just applying lashes on top of her liner. And for the final touch, which is the lipstick, for that I'm using Stilla liquid lipstick in shade Beso. This is actually one of my most favorite tomato red, almost reminds me of Ruby Woo. Ruby Woo, that's what it's called, right? By MAC Cosmetics. And what I always like to do is I like to apply a thin layer of liquid liner on top of the glue, just to make sure no glues are showing through or anything.
Oh my god, this looks so good! Right now! I love it. It's so nice.
So that's a really good news, guys. My beautiful bride loves the makeup, and I hope you guys love it too. And that's it, guys. Hope to see you next time on my next video. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching.